there was the time in Canada. This was early on in my hitchhiking career, and I was way up in northern Ontario, you know, Neil Young country, and I was at a truck stop, and I had made this sign for Thunder Bay, but I was north of Toronto. Thunder Bay was a long ways off, like at least an 8-hour drive. And I was at this truck stop, and I was just like, truck stops, yeah, that's for truckers, that's who you get rides from, right? Truckers. That's the classic thing. Little did I know that truckers don't give rides much anymore because their insurance companies say it's a liability. And so they can't even let their relatives ride with them unless they sign all this paperwork, fill out all this paperwork. So much less a hitchhiker who's just standing there with a Thunder Bay sign. And so I'm there for hours, and I hadn't slept in a couple days, and I was just like, I gotta get out of this place. And I was just standing there feeling pretty dejected. And this guy comes up to me, he was pumping gas, and he comes up to me and says, I've got a proposition for you, because he knows I'm a hitchhiker. I got a proposition for you. And then he goes in to pay for gas, and I'm left to wonder, like, what is this proposition? Or what is this? I'm a little weirded out by this, but. And so he comes out, and fortunately, Bob, that's his name, Bob, was not talking about a blowjob. Bob comes out and he says, I want you to have this thing, I want you to take my truck. And I'm like, wow, what do you mean, take your truck? Like, you're giving me your truck just so I can get out here and drive across the Thunder Bay? Wow, amazing. Of course, there was a catch. He said, I'm going to report it as stolen. I'm like, oh, whoa, okay, whoa. And then in the back of my mind, I'm like, this will make a good story. This will make a great story. So I'm like, sure, I'll steal your truck. No problem. And so he takes me over to his place, in his car, and he says, okay, this is the first thing he says, is, I gotta let you know, you're gonna have to leave the truck running. Do not shut off the truck. He says this, and then we start the truck up with him spraying starter fluid into something in the engine. And I have no idea what he's doing up there. He's doing something to make it start while I turn the key. I'm like, okay, well, that'll be fine, you know, like, I can deal with that. No big deal. So I'm in there and I noticed that the shifter had fallen off, and in its place was a pair of vice grips. Okay, it seems to be working. Okay, vice grips. That's fine. Then I noticed there's no rear view mirror, and there's no side mirrors either. And this guy had gotten in a wreck, a really bad wreck with this truck, and it was kind of messed up a little, and he just wanted to get rid of it, get the insurance money, you know. So it was a scam, and I was like so desperate that I was willing to participate. And so we go back to the gas station. I have this like thing. I'm like, you gotta fill it up with gas and give me some money, you know. Like I'm not just gonna take this truck without you giving me something. And so he's filling it up, and I'm watching from his car. And I'm like, there's this something dripping under the car, under the truck, just dripping. I'm like, what the hell? And he's like, and I'm like asking him, like, oh yeah, the gas tank leaks. Okay, all right. Well, give me a little more money there because I'll have to fill it up a couple times. I'm desperate, okay? I'm desperate. Okay. And so I get behind the wheel of this thing. And then I'm driving, I'm like, I haven't slept in 2 days. This could be interesting. I'm just like, wow, okay, I'm already feeling pretty tired. And then, fortunately, I noticed that he has an Iron Maiden tape. That's the only music in the car, and I put it in the tape player. I'm like, okay, that's gonna help. Turn that up, Iron Maiden will help me get across Canada. And I'm like, okay. And so I'm driving along, I'm sticking my head out the window, screaming, slapping myself in the face, like really like, not just like, but like wailing on myself, you know, just to keep myself awake. Fortunately, I had some really crunchy chips. Highly recommend crunchy chips if you're tired of it. And then at one point, I stopped at this ice cold lake while, you know, and I just jumped into it. And so Iron Maiden's playing at full volume the whole trip, 8 hours. And at one point, the trees start like reaching out to me as I drive between them. It's like this, the roads up in northern Ontario, I don't know if you've ever been there, but the trees are like all along the road the whole way, and they're these tall pine trees, and they just started to like reach out, caress the car, and everything, caress the truck. And then I looked, at one point I looked over and a mailbox was pecking the ground. A mailbox just started bending over, pecking the ground. I was tired. I was out of my door. And so I'm driving. This is like eternal drive. And I see this dark shape that looked like a human with a raven's head along the road. It's like, whoa, weird. And it had its thumb out. And I'm like, it's a hitchhiker. I have to pull over and just pick him up. I have to. It's like, how can I not, right? And so I pull over alongside the guy. And he almost didn't get in. He was looking at me like, you got a weird look in your eyes, buddy. And so, he was a young Cree fellow heading home from, what's this town named? Opasatika, Ontario. He'd gotten in a scuffle with the local police there the previous night and had been thrown in jail. He showed me all these scratches from the struggle all over his arms. He was headed to the res, as he called it, to see his girlfriend get his bicycle. And so we finally get there after 10 more miles, and I drop him off at a bar. And I was thinking of stopping in for a beer, but I decided that would not be a prudent idea. And so back on the highway, I see this gray wolf emerge from the woods and cross the road. And I just like, am I seeing it? I knew I saw it. Like, that was real. And it's the first wolf I'd ever seen in my life. You know? And so I started thinking about wolves. Before long, this wolf man was like running next to the truck. And I'm just, the foam was like trailing from its mouth. He was howling, his eyes were bulging, his fur was rustling in the wind. I saw this shit. I could smell the musk of the wolf man. And my eyes were bulging, and I was screaming, and I realized the musk was coming from me, and I was the wolf man. You know?
Definitely.
I hadn't had enough sleep. Fortunately, I made it to the border, and I ditched the truck, took the license plates off, took all the paperwork out of the glove compartment, went out in the woods and tossed them, you know, buried them. And I was just paranoid at this point, you know. I'm just like, they're not going to find me. And so the funny thing was, though, right as I reached the border, it ran out of gas, like right then. And so I was like, oh my God. I was able to like swing it and turn it around the opposite direction, so I was like, that'll throw the dogs off. And I was wiping my prints off. Like, prints off. There's no rear view. Okay, don't have to worry about that. Watch it. Yeah. So I made it across. And That was probably one of the craziest things I ever experienced while hitchhiking. What time is it?
1,000,000 o'clock.
What?
1,000,000 o'clock?
Your time.
How much longer should I read?
Forever.
And by the way, anyone can get up at any point and go get beer.
You need one?
Almost. And go to the bathroom. Not